Hey everybody, this is Calvin with Improver, and today we're going to show you how to use the Improver Storyboard. Now, this is a tool to help you practice PDCA or some of its derivative processes like Toyota KATA or 4DX or whichever process that you prefer. But this is the Improver's the premier software for PDCA. So let's jump into this. I'll show you how to use it. Once you log into Improver, the first place it'll take you to is your dashboard, and this is what you'll see, right? From here, there's two ways to access your storyboard. The first way, and this is my preferred way, is to check in the header here. You'll see a storyboard icon. If you don't see it, go to the marketplace, find the storyboard, and activate it for your account, and then you'll have access to that icon. The second way to access the storyboard is to scroll down here on your dashboard, find top stories, and click this view icon, and then it'll pull up your storyboard, right? Here you'll see all your past stories and successes and so forth. All right, so let's go to the top. Like I said, my preferred approach is just to click in the header here, this storyboard icon. Once the storyboard loads, you'll see something like this, and I'll walk you through what is here on this page, right? You've got a challenge, and a challenge is usually the same as your supervisor's goal. So you can set a goal in alignment with your boss's goal in that way, right? So you see your challenge. Everyone on your team who reports to the same person will see the same challenge here. You've got your goal. This is the specific thing you're working to achieve next. Usually the scope here is 6 to 12 weeks, could go longer if you're higher up in the organization. You've got an achieve by date, when you expect to achieve that by. You've got a start, where you started from a data standpoint, where you're at currently, where you're going. You can see Mike here is 80% to his goal, and he's about 80% through the amount of time he has to achieve his goal. So he's pretty on track here, right? On the right, you see a gap chart. You can see a gap chart or a run chart, but I'll explain what a gap chart is first. On the gap chart, you've got a blue line here, and this is where you should be at any point in time. You can see we started the challenge April 1st. We're just planning to finish the challenge here, or the goal here, on 9/26, and today is 8/24. So you're, again, 80% of the way there, and results wise, you're exceeding goals. So anything above the blue line is ahead of schedule. Anything below the blue line is behind schedule, right? The blue line, again, is where you should be at this given point in time. Up top here, you got a few metrics: the average, kind of where you've averaged recently, the target, where you're going, how frequently or how on track are you with entering data points. Again, if we're doing weekly PDCA cycles, you should enter one a week. Your iteration schedule, and we'll talk more about iterations in a moment. Achievement gap, how close or far you are from being where you should be, right? Are you ahead of schedule, behind schedule? And in this case, there's no gap. And then days to deadline, 33 days. Looks like it's in the green. You're on schedule, right? Or even ahead of schedule in this case. Let's talk log of iterations. Log of iterations is essentially what experiments you've tried en route to achieving your goal. Again, PDCA is you set a goal and you iterate your way there. So this is your log of iterations here. So we've tried a bunch of things and we've learned a bunch of things along the way. And then beneath that, it's to do or doing, which is what you're going to try next, right? So if you're practicing Toyota KATA with the 5 KATA questions, it's what's your target condition? In this case, what's your goal? By when? How's it going? What obstacles are you facing? There's a notes section here where you can include more obstacles. You can include videos. You can include images. You can include any supporting evidence to kind of document your journey. Next question is, what have you tried and what have you learned from it? And then the next question is, what are you going to try next and by when? Right. So this storyboard follows along with the Toyota KATA questions, so to say. But it also supports 4DX, where you're going to have your most important thing to improve, and you're going to make regular iterations. This supports the coaching process for Toyota KATA and so forth as well. So, all right, so let me show you how to use this, right? Because there's actually a lot here. Almost everything on this page is driven by this pencil icon. This is where you would make all the changes you need to make. There's a few other places, but this is the main place you'll be. In fact, if you're getting off track from using this, you may be in trouble, right? You may need to ask for help, right? Ask your coach for help. So let me show you how to use this, okay? So there's a few controls that you can use or you can perform through this same pencil icon. And the first one we're going to do is set a goal. If you're brand new to Improver, the first thing you need to do is set a goal. And we'll walk through that process. Again, you see your challenge here. It's automatically populated from your leader's goal. So if they have a goal, you have a challenge automatically. You and everyone else who reports to the same person essentially has the same challenge. Everybody's aligned, right? Now, the next step is to set your goal relative to your boss's goal, right? And that drives alignment throughout the organization. If your boss is not in this system, you'll see a big white box here that says input your challenge. Feel free to populate with whatever makes sense for you. Again, a challenge is 6 months into the future, 12 months, perhaps 18 months into the future, right? It's a little bit longer in scope. Now, let's set your goal here. So the first question he wants to know is, what metric are you going to improve? And let's just say we're going to improve operating costs. And we're going to measure that in dollars. And our baseline is, $10,000 a week. And our target is to get to $8,000 a week. Let's give ourselves a deadline. Let's say we want to achieve this in the next 2 months. So more or less 10 weeks. So 8 to 10 weeks here. So I'm just going to hit next once that's all populated. Pretty straightforward. It's going to say, hey, we're trying to reduce operating costs by 8,000. It's a 25% improvement. And we're going to have PDCA cycles every week. You could set this to daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. We'll just go with weekly for now. And then hit next. Next question it wants to know is, what are you going to do next? What are you going to try next in order to drive improvement? And let's say the first thing we're going to do is to create a project charter. What do you expect to happen from this? I expect that we'll have a good idea how we will start the project. I call it project, but really PDCA is it's more of a series of experiments than it is a project. But let's just go with that for now. You hit next. Congratulations on starting the journey. See you soon. Hit finish. And there, the page reloads and all of everything you just set in is now there, right? Decrease operating cost to 8K by 1024, starting at 10. We're still at 10, of course. We just got started. We're going to 8. Haven't made any progress yet, and no time has elapsed at this point, right? So this essentially maps out your journey, right? Starting today, you're going to 1024, and this blue line just kind of shows you where you should be over time as you're making a series of improvements, whether or not you're on schedule or behind schedule to achieving your goal by the deadline. You got your log of iterations here, right? We haven't completed anything yet, so there's nothing here, but we have a to-do item that is create a project charter, right? You have a good idea how to start the project. This is due in 1 week because you said you want to do weekly PDCA cycles, right? So it's all there. Below here, you've got some suggestions for learning material courses. Again, we have Impruver University with tons of content, tons of courses. This says perhaps you should take your white belt certification. It's got videos from webinars and everything else here, tools, templates, etc. So it's pretty loaded up for someone on a CI journey, right? You got a run chart here. You can also see, traditional run chart style. It's got your target in there. It's got your actual data point in there. Over time, you'll see a target line and you'll see the actual line sort of dancing around the target, right? You're going from 10,000 a week to 8,000 a week, and you can kind of measure your progress that way as well. But all right, so what do we do now, right? There's a couple things we can do now. We can add notes, and in the notes section, you can add, okay, I've got 5 obstacles. Here they are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can add an image. I can add a video. I can just share some thoughts, some things I'm experiencing, some challenges, etc. This kind of makes the storyboard flexible to any and every type of methodology you might have. And then you got your log of iterations. And here you got your items that are done and then your items that are to do. Okay, we walked through that a little bit already. So, all right. The next thing I'll show you to do is to add a data point, right? And you can add a data point without actually making an improvement. Let's say you want to just capture a data point every week, whether or not you make an improvement, because in some cases you may not finish the actual improvement, but you still want to capture the data point. So let's walk through that workflow. Again, you click on your pencil icon and it says, let's reflect, right? And the first thing it wants to know is, did you complete your action item? And in this case, we have it. So let's leave it in to do status, right? The other status is complete, and we haven't completed it yet. So it's still in to do status. I'm just going to add my data point here. And, we're still at 10,000, right? We haven't made any improvements. Nothing's changed. What did we learn from this? If you're just adding a data point, this field is optional, but I'll just add a comment just to do it. We'll say, okay, hit next, and it essentially takes you out of the workflow and you're done. And you've simply added a data point. Okay, and your data point is there. I know it's a little hard to see, but it's in there, right? Quantity 10K, you haven't really moved the needle at all. Okay. All right. Let's say this was actually a really good continuous improvement week for you, and you did get your action item done, right? I'll show you the workflow to do that. So you would click this pencil icon. You would actually mark this complete. In marking this complete, it takes you to a separate workflow. We're going to go through that now. And let's say your cost is now $9,500 a week. And what did you learn from taking this action? You hit next. Now it's going to ask you a couple questions. It says your challenge is this, your goal is this, right? Now it's going to ask you if you want to set a new goal, meaning maybe cancel out of this goal and go a new direction, or if you want to stick with the same goal. In this case, we want to stick with the same goal. And then it's going to ask you for what experiment or what iteration or what are you going to try next to drive improvement. Notice it's giving you coins along the way, and we'll talk more about what those coins mean. But all right, so next action, I'm going to, and I expect operating costs will go down to $9,000 a week. Hit next. You let that load up, and there you have it. So again, you've now made 8% progress against your goal. Again, I'm doing this all in one day, so no time has elapsed yet. You're way ahead of schedule. And you've got your done item here showing create project charter, ... We've built a weekly meeting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So there you are. And you can, the idea is that you would repeat these PDCA cycles every single week, right? You can see how the plan is right here to complete this action, and it's got the expected outcome. You got kind of a hypothesis built in there. The do is to complete this, actually get it done. The check is, hey, did we make any progress toward our goal? Are we succeeding? Are we failing, et cetera? And then the act is, okay, let's decide the next action, right? And over time, if the process is working perfectly, you're going to track somewhat along this line. Sometimes it starts slow and then jumps up. Sometimes it jumps up early and, got different variations. But essentially, you're practicing PDCA, right? You're building the habit of continuous improvement. And if you can get to everybody every day, everywhere, then you've truly created a culture of Kaizen. All right, the third key workflow I want to show you in this is how to get out of a goal and set a new goal. And again, all of that's done right here in this pencil icon. So let's jump into that now. All right, so to get out of this current goal and set a new one, I would mark this as complete. Ideally, you would have completed it. And let's say we reached our goal, we got to 8,000. And what did you learn from this action? We learned that, okay, now I'm gonna hit next. And again, it comes to this screen. Has your objective changed? Now we're going to set a new goal, right? We've achieved that last goal and we're going to set a new one. And again, it takes us back to the top. What's your challenge? In this case, the challenge is pulled directly from the manager's challenge. I'm going to hit next and I'm going to set a new goal. In this case, I'm going to use the same goal. We're already at $8,000. And now we want to get to, $7,000. And we think we can do this in 2 months. PDCA cycles weekly, another 14% improvement. Sure, let's do it. Hit next. Hit next. Congratulations. Let's let that load up and we're off and running. Okay, there's one more thing I want to show you, and that's how you can incorporate other lean tools and continuous improvement tools into your storyboard process or into your PDCA process, right? We're firm believers that the cornerstone of continuous improvement is PDCA, but all of the other tools have a place within that PDCA process. So let's show you how to add tools to PDCA, right? In this case, we got a action item here to build a project charter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to convert this action into a tool. And the tool I want to use is the project charter, if I can get my mouse to cooperate. There we go. Are you sure? Yes, I am. All right. So now it's going to set me up for a project charter. And problem statement here is, okay. And I'm Mike in this case in 831. Sure, that's fine. Are there any business impacts? Yeah, we think it's going to have a 5% safety impact. It's going to have a $20,000 savings, and morale is going to be improved by 5%. If I want to attach any supporting documents to support these numbers, I can do so here and hit save. And you can see the project charter opens up here, right? So from here, I can add team members. I can include my business case and benefits, goal statement, key milestones, key metrics, and scope. Keep in mind that in the Improver system, you can build custom tools. So these are the sort of the default project charter fields, and these are there. These can be added, removed. You can kind of build a tool to your own liking. So let me just populate some information here. I submit that. And then from there, I might add an action item or my next step so that I can continue to drive the work forward. And there it is. I've got an action item there, right? So then back to my PDCA. Once that item is complete, I mark it complete and I essentially set my next action item in series, right? I'm going to have a series of iterations as we make our journey from current state to desired future state. As you can see, there are many tools in the Improver marketplace: standard work, voice of the customer, root cause analysis, process mapping, project charter, SIPOC, idea submission form A3, 5S, and there's more tools being added all the time. So this is a ever expanding uh, database of tools, and they're all able to be used on the Improver platform. So there you have it, folks. There's your introduction to the Improver Storyboard and how to use it. Please feel free to check it out. And if you run into any questions at all, you can reach us right here in the message function. Just write the Improver team and let us know what you need. And we usually respond within 24 hours, often much more like within an hour or two. So thank you for your time. I hope you enjoy this feature and get much value from it. And we'd love to hear your feedback. Otherwise, have a fantastic week and let's get better every day. Thank you.